I know you mentioned to Chris and I, there was a chance you almost didn't want to come on and do our podcast today, but you didn't really tell us why, and we didn't really want to ask ahead of time. So, do you mind sharing with us?
Yeah, yeah. Now I'm going to look for grace and words that are going to make this easier to digest for my father, for my adopted father. When I think about shit my dad taught me, I didn't know how deep this podcast goes into that. Like, I don't know if there was going to be like, tell me five things that your dad taught you, right? I've had an interesting relationship with my parents. Okay. Um, when you're adopted, okay, even though I kind of blew it off for years as like it's not a big deal, right? It is a big deal, dude. It's a big deal. People who listen to this podcast that are adopted are gonna also it's gonna resonate with them that it is a big deal. It's a big deal. Because you're not the same. You're just not. My daughters who are my biological daughters and Christian, who's my knob of a son, Christian, who's 21 now, doing the crazy things I used to do. I look at him and I see me, right? I see me. And my dad didn't do that, you know? So when I figured out that I was gonna have trouble with alcohol and drugs and that hit at an early age, um, it was hard for my dad, you know, and I get it, right? And for someone who's a church going person, right? It's also hard, right? I made a call to my parents from Europe when I think I was 16. I still remember the phone call. I was in a German Canadian, American Army base in Germany, based in Germany. They said today you can make two phone calls, right? No cell phones, but back then. And I said, I'm going to call my parents. And the reason I was going to call my parents was to tell them that religion and everything they believe in is bullshit. And that I was coming home a different person than they met. And I told my parents that. I said, point blank, guys, I said, when I come home, I'm going on the road and I'm not going to be the Christian guy. Know it, own it, and I don't care what that feels like to you. And my parents went, wow. Because the tour I was on was with people from religious people. And I said, nope, I'm coming back and I'm going to be a rock star. That's it. And I'm going to burn this down. I'm burn my life down. And you know what, boys? I was successful. I did it. I lost my friends. I lost my family. I lost my dad. And when I was years later, I was coming back from another tour, and me and my dad were driving on the QEW in the morning. My dad said, "Lie back, son. Go to sleep." I hadn't slept in days, dude. I was on tour, burning my life down. Go to sleep. You haven't slept in days. I looked over, and my dad convulsed as we were driving. He had a brain aneurysm driving on the QEW. We were going 120 kilometers an hour. His body froze. He put his foot all the way down on the gas at 180. We hit a Mack truck. It put us, something woke me up and told me, turn the wheel right now. We both would have been obliterated if I hadn't turned that wheel at that exact moment. But it crushed my dad in front of my eyes, dude. Crushed him. Broke his back. His body disintegrated in front of me. And I never got my dad back.
Sorry, brother.
I never got a chance. For that. Because drugs and alcohol were so fucking important, man. So important. Getting laid was so important, dude. I lost my dad, dude. He lived. By the grace of God, he lived. He lived, but he was never the same. Never. He could never love again, dude. Couldn't feel it. It was permanent brain damage, man. I wish. The reason I almost bailed is because that is one of the most painful realizations you'll ever have in your life. Is when you lose your dad and he's still alive, man. There's shit he probably would have taught me. Except drugs and alcohol stole it from me. So people ask why I don't give a shit about going out and taking whatever the consequences are. It's because of that day, dude. It's because of that day. And that day didn't wake me up, man. That day threw me further into addiction. Because I was like, well, now I've lost him. And it set my mom off the rails. Destroyed my whole family. And I said, who cares now? Who cares if I live now? What does that matter? So for like 30 years, dude, I did everything I could to kill myself. Everything, including trying to kill myself. But I lived. I lived, man. I'm here. So you're damn right. I'm going to take every minute now and go into a dark world and try to shine a light, dude. Because that's the shit my dad would have taught me. And, you know, now my dad is not a man for emotion or words, or because he just doesn't have that. But when I got sober, I got a new car. I went and picked up my old man, and we drove. He put his hand on my knee. He said, I'm proud of you. I'd never heard that before. That's the shit my dad taught me. It's never too late, dude. It's never too late. But when I think about talking about it, dude, it's hard, man. Right? Because if someone asked me, name 5 things your dad taught you, I don't think they'd be tangible things. I don't think they would be things like how to fish, how to do this and that. It would be untangible things. Respect time, because it's not guaranteed. Don't make molehills into mountains, because they're not. Don't let demons steal your life. It's never too late to turn it around and have your dad turn to you and say, I'm proud of you. It can happen. Right? I don't know, that's heavy, boys, but like that's a reality, man. So that's why, like, legitimately driving here this morning, I called Bert, who's kind of my backbone, my tough boy.
I think you're more his backbone.
Well, I think we're each other's backbone, but I needed a word from him. And I called him. Like, I think I'm going to call Jamie and Chris and bail. God, I don't think I want to do it. Right? Only because of the name. And he said, that's exactly why you got to do it. You don't back down from shit, Irving. You don't. And I went, Yep. I'm gonna grab some energy drinks and I'll be on my way. you know.
No, we're glad you came, man.
No, so glad, bro.
That's a deep story for sure.